These are Fujifilm's last made in Japan color negative films, and in this video I'm going to tell you all about this one, Superia Premium 400. I'll tell you about its history, what it's like to shoot, and I'll show you lots of example photos that I shot on location in Japan. I'll also tell you where you can find it and how much you should pay per roll. So what is Superia Premium 400 and how does it differ from Fujifilm's other color negative films? Superia Premium 400 is a Japanese market variant of their Superia line of films. This consumer film launched in 2009, but unlike some of the other films in the Superia lineup at the time, it does not have a fourth color layer. I found this page on Fujifilm's website about the film and I translated it into English, so let's have a look at some of the details here. The page says it's a high sensitivity film with beautiful detailed images. It has a broad exposure latitude, resulting in clear color reproduction, even when overexposed. Furthermore, it reproduces Japanese skin tones vividly and beautifully, achieving sharp, vivid color reproduction. So that's probably one of the reasons why it is a Japanese domestic market film. It reproduces Japanese skin tones very well. I've been lucky enough to pick up quite a few rolls of this film over my last 3 trips to Japan, about a dozen rolls all up. Not a huge number, but you've got to remember that a lot of shops in Japan actually have limits on how many rolls of film you can buy. So before I shot a roll of this film, I had quite high expectations, and that's because when people talk about this film, they sort of elevate it to that premium sort of tier. They sort of say it's on a par to Pro 400H or Portra 400 or even Ektar. I would say it's probably closest to Ektar out of those 3 choices. However, it is completely different to Ektar. When I had a look at my Ektar images, a lot of them are very warm, being Kodak stocks. These are not quite as warm, and yet the Superia Premium 400 images are, say, warmer than the Superia Extra 400 images that I've shot in the past. So look, Superia Premium 400 has got its own look. One interesting thing is that I found the grain a little bit more pronounced than I thought it would be. It's got the name Premium in the title, but look, this is no professional stock. You've got to remember, this is a consumer stock. I've shot 4 rolls of the stock so far, and look, I like it. I'm not sure if I love it though yet. The jury is still out, but you're going to see lots of the photos coming up right now and you can decide for yourself what you think of it. So I'll show you some selected highlights from the 3 rolls that I shot in Japan in May, June 2025. Now all of these rolls were shot on my Fujifilm Class S. So the first roll here is a contact sheet. Things are looking fantastic. Everything is bright and rich. Look at those colors. Looks really, really nice here. First image here is the famous King Kong statue that's on top of like this Family Mart convenience store in Tokyo. Really love that. Really like the colors here. Probably could have done with an extra half a stop of exposure there, but yeah, really nice sort of blues and yellows and greens there. Really like that. The next one was just opposite that convenience store, and there's a guy here looking at like a bookshelf of books outside a store, and he's kind of stooping down. I really like that image. I think it's kind of fun. Here we have some nice flowers with some beautiful rich greens and reds there. Really like that. The next 4 images were also shot in Tokyo. It was a nice sunny day in Tokyo and it was quite sort of harsh sunlight here. So we can sort of see how this stock performs in sort of harsh lighting conditions. The first image here is a taxi. Look at that beautiful bright yellow. Love that in the blue sky. Really like that. The next one is some hydrangeas here. Look, the shadows look a little bit dark here because of the contrast and the lighting situations, but I do like that one. The next one is a staircase, kind of overpass over a road and a yellow sign. And across the road here was this nice pink building with a blue sky and a red sign in the background. The next image is from the famous Gorokuji temple in Tokyo with all these beautiful cat statues. I really like that image there. And the next one here is like a wish plaque, an MR, a wish plaque, hanging up with a beautiful cat on. Next one, we just have some nice shadows in Kichijoji there when I come out of my hotel one morning. And again, we're in Tokyo here in one of the fashionable districts here. And I was trying to take an image here of these beautiful shutters there, but these ladies actually walked into the image there. And so this is really my only sort of image of anyone with Asian skin tones, but they look pretty good. Still in Tokyo here, and we've got this sign in the street there. And then we're up in the north of the country. So these 2 trains were at a station in Toyama. I really like that. Next, we have a nice shot here of Kurobe Dam with the sort of clouds there and the beautiful green water there. Some nice hydrangeas here. These might look much nicer in sort of soft dappled light than the other hydrangeas I showed you earlier. And finally, we have this image. I love this image here of this sort of, I think it's like some kind of bar or nightclub in a covered shopping arcade here in, I think it was Takeoka in the north of Japan near Toyama. I really, really like that. Here is the contact sheet for roll 2, and again everything is looking good here. Now I did shoot quite a lot of these images in Kurashiki, I think that's how you say it. It was a very sort of cloudy, overcast day, but I think they've turned out quite nice. The first few, however, were in Tokyo, and here's just like a building. I really like this building. I took a few pictures of this, looking up, and there's actually a lady there hanging her washing out there somewhere. The next one was around the corner, and there was just like this garage, and the sunlight was streaming in, and there's a beautiful red bike. Really liked that image. The next one was just like a tiny little shop. I think it was some kind of like chemistry kind of place, I'm not sure. It was just like this tiny little building amongst all these big buildings. Here we are now in Kurashiki. When I went down to the sort of center of Japan, I guess you'd say, it was kind of near Okayama. Really like this image here of this tray of Coca-Cola bottles and the plants. Now Kurashiki is famous for its beautiful old sort of merchants buildings on a willow-lined canal, and you can actually jump in a boat and go along the canal. And so these next images, I was actually on a bridge, hanging my Fujifilm Class S over the bridge, getting these photos just so you can see them. So you can see here the guy with the pole, he sort of moves the boat along using that pole, and yeah, everyone on board has to wear one of those hats. And the next one here, you can actually see the whole boat. The next couple of images are back in the Shotengai, the covered shopping arcade, and there's some beautiful pink flowers here outside a little house. And also there's these really sort of old sort of Showa era sort of signs here, and you've got this Yamaha clock and these other kind of signs here. And this is what I love about going to Japan. You go to these old shopping arcades, and a lot of the signs, a lot of the shops have not changed in decades, so you sort of feel like you're going back in time a little bit. The last couple of images on this roll I'm going to show you are from Onomichi, beautiful Onomichi, really lovely place, one of the highlights of my trip. I did a temple walk around Onomichi in the hills of Onomichi, and these are just a couple of images from that. You've got these nice little gates here at someone's garden, I really like that. And the next one is a pretty ordinary sort of subject. It is a sort of like a fire hose, I guess you'd say, with the nice red colors there, and the hose, I think that's the hose, all neatly sort of tied up inside the red box. A couple of last images of Onomichi to finish this roll off. You've got this nice sort of shopping arcade photo here. I love a shopping arcade. And if you want to see more images of this Shotengai, the shopping arcade in Onomichi, make sure you check out my video, Nearpan 1600, Fujifilm's last high-speed black and white film. Lots more Japanese images in that video from this trip. And the final image here is a beautiful picture of the port city of Onomichi, looking wonderful there. A little bit overcast, but the colors are quite nice. This is the third and final roll I shot just before I left the country. The contact sheet looks amazing. Look at all those beautiful images. Lots of green in this one. Everything's beautifully exposed and bright, rich colors. The first few images here are in Toyooka, right up near Kinosaki Onsen to the north of Kyoto. And you've got this building here with these beautiful pink flowers. Really like that. The next one is in like an abandoned marketplace, and there's just this old orange sort of stool. Really like the contrast there against the blue background. You've got these nice shutters. I think this is really cool. It's got some nice paintings on the side of the shutters there of a lady looking very fashionable. This shot was taken from the station at Fukuyama, and this is the castle here with some beautiful sort of sky in the background, and that looks very atmospheric. It sort of almost reminds you of what Japan could have been like, 1,000 years ago or 800 years ago. Last few images here are in Kyoto, and you've got this sort of nice pond here with these koi carp, sort of a nice bridge here with some nice green leaves. And this shot was on my very last day in Kyoto before I went to the airport, and I just went over this little bridge, looked to the right, and there's old mate over here, and he's got like a bucket and he's drawing water from this like river creek, which is pretty cool. And the final image here is just some nice sort of a bit of a doorstep garden here with all these like buckets and cuttings of plants, which looks lovely on this film. So there you go. What did you think of my photos shot in Japan with Superia Premium 400? All of those photos shot on the wonderful Fujifilm Class S. I would love to know. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment below. I picked up my rolls of Superia Premium 400 in Japan, and for each roll I paid around 2,400 yen or $16 US. So this is not a cheap stock, even though it is a consumer film. That is about 40 to 50% more expensive than Superia Extra 400, which was around 1,800 yen or $12 US. Now Superia Extra 400 was still available in Japan in around March, April 2023. When I went later that year, November 23, it was not available anymore, and Superia Premium 400 was on the shelf instead. Now for me, the image quality for both of these films is great. I actually prefer the look and the colors of Extra 400 more, and it is significantly cheaper. So if that was around, I'd be buying that rather than Superia Premium 400. Now another film that is around that 1,800 yen mark, of course, is Fujicolor 100, and you can still get that in Japan at the moment. Now the list price for it is around 1800 yen as well, 12 US dollars, but I was actually picking that up for around 1640, 1680 yen in different stores. So for me, Fujicolor 100 is a bargain and I really, really love that film. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. So I'll be doing a video about Fujicolor 100 very soon. Now, if you're going to Japan, I'm going to tell you where you can find this film. Of course, the first place that most people look is the big chain stores like Bic Camera, Yodobashi, and even Kitamura. And of course, yeah, you can luck out and you can grab a roll or two of those films in those stores. Quite often they have limits on how many rolls of film you can buy. So quite often I was just coming away with one roll of Superia Premium 400 at a time. However, my top tip for bagging any of these made in Japan films in Japan is go to the smaller camera stores. Use Google Maps, look for camera stores, and when you go to these smaller mom and pop sort of style camera stores, usually you will find made in Japan Fujifilm stocks in their store. So that is my top tip. Search out for those smaller camera stores. If you're not going to Japan anytime soon, look, it is possible to get this film in other countries, of course, but camera stores and film sellers have to import it and resell it. I think you'd probably expect to pay around, 24 US dollars. That's certainly the price it's going for here in Australia. To me, personally, I don't think it's worth shooting at that price. You might just want to buy a roll and test it out and see if you like it or not. For me, look, I'm very grateful that the film exists. I'm very grateful that I had the opportunity to buy a few rolls of it. However, there are other 400 stocks that I like much better. Now, one interesting thing about the supplies of Fujifilm Superia 400 and the supplies of Fujicolor 100 is the expiry dates on the box. Mine say 2026 or 2027. Other people have picked this up in Japan and they've gone onto Facebook or onto Reddit and TikTok and said, hey, look, there's these long expiry dates of made in Japan Fujifilm stocks. Fujifilm is making film again. I'm actually not so sure. I'm not so sure that they're actually making film, 35mm film, because if they were, wouldn't they be making it on a huge grand scale? Wouldn't they be exporting this around the world? Instead, we see that Kodak manufacturing Fujifilm 200 and Fujifilm 400 in North America. We see Ilford Harman producing Acros 2 in the United Kingdom. So if this was really true, if Fujifilm had fired up a factory and they're making all this film, why are they just making a few boxes of it for the Japanese domestic market? It doesn't really make sense. And if you want to find out more about the Fujifilm freezer theory, make sure you check out this interview I did with Bellamy Hunt, Japan Camera Hunter. It's from a couple of years ago, but it's fascinating. And if you fast forward to the bit around the Fujifilm freezer theory, he gives a good rundown on what he thinks is the current state of play with film manufacture in Japan. Have you shot Superia Premium 400? What did you think of it? If you haven't, what did you think of my images and the palette of the colors from this film? I would love to know. Drop a comment below and make sure you subscribe because that Fujicolor 100 video is coming very soon. See you next time. Bye-bye.